So, okay, my name is Ju Young. I'm one of the co-founder of Suku Vitamins. We're sugar-free, sugar alcohol-free, plant-based gummy vitamins, and we're the thank you. That's perfect. Okay, hopefully I'm not yelling at you guys, but basically we offer the Canada's cleanest gummy vitamins. As once again, we're sugar-free, sugar alcohol-free, and plant-based gummy vitamins. Today, I've invited Dr. Marley Guy to discuss some of our discussion today about are you getting enough good sleep, essentially.
Great.
So, Dr. Marley, could you introduce yourself a little bit?
Of course. I'm Dr. Marley Guy. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I see patients in the Ontario region. And I'm very happy to be here tonight to talk to you guys about sleep and um, hopefully how you can get better quality sleep so you can get on with your day and feel the best you can feel. I'm really excited to be here today. Just before we kind of get started, we just like to say that everything we say is for educational purposes only. Um, and of course, always talk to your healthcare provider before making any changes. That's always best. And other than that, I do sometimes act as a medical advisor for Suku Vitamins, but other than that, I have no other conflicts of interest to disclose.
Okay. So, um, if I think Melissa was giving a little bit on my bio as well. My background is naturopathic medicine. That's where I actually met Marley, Dr. Marley Guy now, and she was in the same class. So we'll be utilizing this platform, Facebook Live, as part of partnering with Nature's Fair to discuss about sleep, and we'll be having some impromptu conversation here. And if you have any questions, definitely put them in the comments, and when we see them, we'll definitely answer them. But I'm going back to the topic: are you getting enough good sleep? This was I actually personally chose this topic when we were discussing with Melissa earlier this year. Just among the topic because I felt that sleep was, especially good sleep, was underrated. So I mean, Marley, Dr. Guy, sorry, could you give us some bit context about the current Canadian recommendations by Health Canada when it comes to sleep?
Definitely, yeah. So typically, the guidelines suggest a 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night, but that's not often what we see, um, which has a lot of negative consequences that we're not necessarily aware of all the time. But yeah, typically we recommend 7 to 9 hours of sleep for adults.
Which is quite, I would say, crazy because I honestly felt that sleep, um, like as adults, you should sleep less, and especially we usually educate or inform the children to have more sleep, like 7 to 9. But I never knew that sleep recommendation also existed the same
For
with adults.
adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so for children, obviously we think sleep is so important because of growth and development, and when they have growth spurts, like they need to get more sleep. But as adults, and as our lives get busier and our schedules get more hectic, we start. I think we forget how important sleep is for us. It is actually crucial. It is one of the foundational pieces to our health and wellness. It's like I call it one of the kind of three pillars. Like you need a balanced diet, good exercise, and proper sleep, good quality
Yeah.
sleep.
So I think Vivian asked the question here: is 7 to 9 hours spent asleep? And that's my next question. I want to ask you. That necessarily doesn't mean like if we get 7 to 9 sleep, that doesn't mean we're getting good sleep, is it?
So yeah, we it would be ideal if those 7 to 9 hours were spent in a good quality sleep. But typically, what we see a lot of the times is individuals wake up during the night, they're disrupted in their sleeps, or they have trouble falling asleep. So really, it's like the amount of time spent sleeping is much less. So even though you're in bed, you may not be getting the length of sleep that you need, as well as the quality of sleep. So yes, Vivian, 7 to 9 hours is the recommended time that we should actually be asleep. But we definitely are not
Getting the quality
there.
sleep,
Yes.
right? Like if I dug up more stats before for this conversation. Actually, the stats say 25% of Canadian adults are not getting enough sleep. That's number one. And it says here when it comes to quality sleep, 50% of adults have trouble going to sleep or staying asleep. 50%.
Yeah, and I would honestly argue it's probably higher than that. Like this is, of course, just what's reported, but
Right.
it's probably underreported. I know for myself, at least in practice, all of my patients suffer in some way with regards to sleep, whether it's not getting enough sleep, like the duration is not enough, or they just never feel like they wake up feeling rested. So that really, to me, speaks to a quality issue. So they're not getting a restful sleep. Um, yeah, so there's something we have to figure out there. But
And more data is I have here 20% of Canadian adults do not find their sleep refreshing, and 33% of Canadian adults have difficulty staying awake during waking hours.
right, so that last part there about not being able to um, basically stay awake during waking hours and function properly during waking hours, that just speaks to the consequences of not having good quality sleep. And unfortunately, that's what it does. It affects our daily living. And we really want to prevent that. We want you to go about your days and feeling the best that you can. And unfortunately, when you are lacking sleep, we do feel it during the day, right? You can't, you just can't be on your game. So we don't want that.
I mean, especially affecting your day-to-day work, right?
Yeah,
as well.
work and also relationships, your social interactions can suffer.
Right.
So I think we have a couple more questions that's just popped up. Oh yeah, I agree. 7 to 9 hours of REM sleep, that would be lovely. And yeah, there are lots of different. Yeah, there's a couple stages of sleep, but REM sleep is part of that restoration phase. So deep sleep and REM sleep is really where we get that rejuvenation from our sleep. And sometimes when we'll get into more specifics in a bit, but when you don't have that sleep-wake cycle, those stages of sleep can be actually greatly impaired. So you're not getting a restored sleep.
All right. So we know the stats. So pretty much 50%, 25% of Canadians are not getting either good sleep or quality sleep. So, like, how would I know if I'm not getting good sleep? Like, what are some signs of poor sleep here?
Right. So, I mean, they can range, right? It varies, and it depends on the person. But obviously, you can tell if you haven't had a good quality sleep if you've been tossing and turning all night, right? That's obvious. But sometimes it can even be signs or symptoms that you're experiencing, and maybe you haven't necessarily linked them yourself. But if you go to a healthcare provider, they may dig deeper into looking into your sleep history, because oftentimes poor sleep quality is an underlying contributor to a lot of health concerns. So one thing that we see a lot of is impaired concentration, memory impairments, issues with learning. If you feel just overwhelmed and stressed or irritable, like a lot of mood issues, and then even more in terms of like physical signs, like we'll see a lot of chronic skin conditions. So it can actually, like, poor quality sleep can directly affect our skin health, and it can actually accelerate aging. So often we see premature aging. Acne can be worsened because of a lot of inflammation and inability to repair. And another huge one that I see in practice a lot of is actually stubborn belly fat, or the inability to lose weight despite having a healthy diet. I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate to that. It's like I'm doing everything right, and I just can't seem to lose that stubborn belly fat. I can't lose those last 10 pounds, and that a lot of times has to do with not getting enough sleep.
Okay, so if I get this straight, to summarize it, so typical signs of poor sleep, I guess two main, what I would call is the beauty, number one.
Yeah, beauty takes a hit.
And also the weight loss, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to stay fit or essentially stay healthy, you need to be sure that you get good sleep.
Yeah, I mean, sleep just affects everything to do with our health, but a lot of times I see patients come to me and they want, to improve their beauty, and they want to, lose weight. They want to feel more energetic and, have better, just overall functioning. And really, a lot of times it comes down to sleep.
Okay. So I have some few other factors here. I mean, here it says more sedentary time results in the poor sleep, stress, mental health. All those issues typically have factors into getting poor sleep, right?
Right, and it's kind of like a chicken and egg scenario, right? Because when we're stressed, like, we live in a high tempo, stress kind of society, we're go, go, go all the time. So we're not really able to calm down and relax at night. And a lot of times people are working into the evening. So when you're constantly on the go and kind of functioning like you're on a motor, by the time it's bedtime, your body actually hasn't been able to decompress and relax. So that completely impairs your body's ability to enter into a sleeping
Okay.
Environment.
Right.
On the other hand, lack of sleep also causes stress and makes you have less energy, so you're less able to be physically active. So it's really a vicious cycle.
Okay, so what are some of so we know about the poor signs, like the signs of poor like sleep right now, right? So what are some of the long-term effects, like negative effects when it comes to health?
Yeah, there's a lot of devastating long-term effects that have been linked to sleep deprivation or low quality sleep. So things, obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, so like hypertension, as well as obviously, we see an increase in injuries resulting in hospitalizations, mood disorders, and also just generally a lower life expectancy. So it has very broad implications that we need to pay attention to. I'm just going to go back to some questions here. So Allison says, would poor sleep quality contribute to dry skin? So yes, this is something that's, we research a lot. Dry skin can definitely be linked to poor sleep quality or not enough sleep. What happens is research has shown that with sleep deprivation, there's actually an increase in what's called transepidural water loss in our skin. So we lose moisture. Wow. So it directly causes dry skin.
That's okay. And I think we have some more here. Scroll up further. Yeah.
What products? Oh, we're going to get to products later on in the talk.
So eating before bed, good or bad? So so I guess this is a good typical option here. So we just talked about the negative effects of insufficient sleep. So yes. It seems like sleep is one of those factors that if you're able to get good regular sleep, you could prevent long-term negative effects when it comes to health, right?
Yeah, it's like kind of that foundation of health, right? Okay. It's a crucial aspect that I think is a lot of times overlooked in society, and it's one of the things that it's the first thing to go, right? When we're stressed and we're like short on time, it's kind of like you just burn the candle, you keep going, but really, we have to remind ourselves that it is so important to sleep, and it affects the way we feel the next day, but it can affect us down the road 10, 20 years.
Wow, okay. So, so building up to we could talk about I guess the food, eating meal before bed. Is that something good? I think that's a good transition to perhaps sleep hygiene.
Yeah, right? So there's definitely things that that kind of relates to our topic about sleep hygiene. So it really depends on the person. To be honest, there are a lot of individual variations, but so I would definitely work with a healthcare provider to see what works best for you. But we kind of want to see a good balance, right? So there are sometimes negative consequences of eating too soon to bedtime, as well as going to bed without enough food. So and food's tricky, right? Because it's just finding that happy medium and what works well for you. But oftentimes what I find personally is kind of a classic scenario is that busy person that is go, go, go all day and kind of doesn't eat enough throughout the day and then experiences that 3 p.m. crash and then, maybe grabs a coffee to deal with that. And then when they get home from work, it's like, okay, now I'm going to have my big meal. And they have, a large proportion of their calories at night. But what happens is that food is an energy source. Right. So it gives you your first bout of energy in a day, and your cortisol actually spikes when we don't want it to spike. So that's why people, when they say I got my second wind, it's probably actually their first wind, because the whole day they were zonked. Yeah. So we really have to fine tune that and figure out, what food, eating something works best for you. but
Okay.
definitely not too soon to going to bed, and also not going to bed with a completely empty stomach because that's distracting and
Okay. So some other tips I have here is maintaining a good regular bedtime and
yes.
nighttime schedule.
Yeah. So this one's an interesting one, and I think it's one that a lot of us don't realize, but it's really important to go to bed and wake up in and around the same time every single day. So even on weekends. Um, so that's a really interesting thing because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people go through their whole week kind of burning the candle and staying up too late, and then they think, oh, I'll just catch up on sleep on the weekend and I'll sleep in.
Yeah.
But what happens is our bodies function on an internal clock, an internal rhythm, and by sleeping in and oversleeping on weekends, we are completely shifting our body's internal rhythm and clock. So in order to have and establish a healthy sleep cycle, you need to basically be on the same team as your internal clock. So you can't fight against it. You have to um, create that rhythm by going to bed and waking up at the same time,
Okay.
so that your internal
So you're essentially just balancing out the clock, circadian rhythm.
exactly, so that the hormones
right.
and the neurotransmitters that are involved in that internal clock
right.
can function when they should be functioning.
So how does it work? Like, let's say, for instance, I'm traveling. Let's say, I'm in Toronto now. If I go to Vancouver one week and come back, that's 3 hour difference. That's
right.
3 hours of disruption. I'm guessing is the rhythm, right?
Exactly. So everyone, has heard of jet lag,
right.
and maybe they've experienced it. But the thing is that basically the same thing happens when I see Sandra says something about shift workers. So basically shift workers are jet lagging themselves like all the time, and same thing with the person who is staying up all night, maybe studying or working, and then thinking, oh, I can just oversleep in the morning and that'll fix everything. Well, no, you're kind of jet lagging yourself in a sense, because it's that shift in your sleep cycle,
right.
and the more you kind of try to correct it by oversleeping, you're basically shifting that clock down during the day, so that and that's why at 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m. you're actually wired when you should be getting sleepy, and it's because that clock has been shifted.
Okay.
So
I think before we were actually having a side conversation about sleep alone. I think you're mentioning that people who are up, let's say, working or studying, like students, they're actually kind of traveling, right?
Yeah.
Because it's if you really think about it, like when you're staying up instead of sleeping, you're extending that sleep hours to 3 hours. So that as if like if I'm staying up late, 3 hours, I'm traveling.
You're like traveling the world.
Traveling the world back and forth. So if you stay up overnight, you're going international travel.
Yeah,
that's how the circadian.
You've gone through like 5 time zones.
Okay, so it seems like at the end of the day, you're all about stabilizing your circadian rhythm.
Yes.
Right.
Because that's how hormones and everything falls into place, so that you can go to sleep and have a good quality sleep.
Perfect.
We've got a couple.
Yeah, a few questions down here. So I think here, any good advice for shift workers?
So yeah, shift workers, it's difficult because our sleep-wake cycle is also linked to our external environment, so the darkness, right, and light. So with shift workers, they're at work sometimes when it's dark, right, but they have to be awake. So that's sending a mixed signal to your brain, right? And then when they're going home and they're trying to sleep during the day, it's bright out, so it's like, how do my hormones deal with this?
I think this is a good segue actually to a discussion of maybe perhaps melatonin. I think many of the audience here, viewers, have actually questions about melatonin, some of the products, and I think perhaps you could explain how melatonin works. So I know it's produced from the pineal gland.
Yeah. So I mean, melatonin would be a great option for shift workers, as well as that those situations where you are extremely jet lagged and you're trying to like purposely establish a rhythm. So basically what happens is when it's dark outside, our body normally gets a signal through our hypothalamus to the pineal gland to basically secrete more melatonin. So that tells our body, okay, it's time to like shut things down, we're gonna go to sleep. And then that level of melatonin is sustained until it gradually decreases as we're exposed to light in the morning. So its level is decreased with light and increased with darkness. So that's why being on our screens all hours of the night is really impeding our body's ability to sleep, and directly interfering with our melatonin, because melatonin is decreased by light exposure.
Right.
But it's also decreased as we age.
Okay, so if I could summarize this, so basically melatonin is produced only at like dark, pure dark.
Yes.
When it's light outside, the melatonin levels in your body decreases. So
to
melatonin
make us wake up.
So essentially, the melatonin is the regulator of your sleep.
Yes, exactly. Okay. It's the regulator of our circadian rhythm.
Perfect.
And that's why we need to be in tune with our external environment to allow our melatonin to work properly.
Okay, sounds good. So I think some of the questions we've been getting is something like, I can't sleep but then wake up in the middle of the night.
Yes.
So perhaps maybe a dose of melatonin, would that help?
It might, but this is also often the case where like stress may be a big picture,
right.
and cortisol may be dysregulated. So that's where, you know, a lot of times I see they're either having a lot of racing thoughts, they're not able to kind of quiet the mind and really get into a relaxation mode that facilitates sleep. So really, we're going to talk a little bit more about some sleep hygiene tips that may be able to help you with that. But on top of melatonin, there are other supplements that can facilitate that relaxation. So we'll go into that a little bit more into detail. But like L-theanine and Gaba really help to calm the mind and get rid of any tension that may be interrupting sleep throughout the night.
Okay, so basically, if I summarize that, if you're waking in the middle of the night, usually because of the stress, and usually that could be prevented from proper sleep hygiene.
Right, because like by having proper sleep hygiene and having a quality sleep, we can actually change our cortisol.
Perfect. So so from our conversation, the quick tips are maintaining a regular bedtime and sleep time schedule. Number one is, I actually don't think we talked about this, avoiding caffeine and alcohol before bed.
Yes, this is a big one. You know, caffeine can actually stay in our system for its half-life is 5 hours. So that means the amount of time it takes for it to leave our system, half the amount is 5 hours. So if you have a grande coffee from Starbucks at 3 p.m., you would still have over 100 milligrams of caffeine in your system by 8 p.m. And that definitely interferes with your ability to sleep, because it actually blocks what's called adenosine receptors in your brain, which is supposed to help with sleepiness, but instead it actually blocks that and keeps you awake.
So is there any other alternative, like maybe tea? Is the tea?
Yeah, a non-caffeinated tea, because tea also contains like L-theanine.
Okay.
And again, it's L-theanine doesn't have sedative properties, but it's very soothing and calming. So it's going to get rid of any anxiousness that may interfere with sleep.
So let's talk about L-theanine. So we talked about melatonin. L-theanine is one of the supplement ingredients that's commonly used for a calming effect.
Yes.
It's naturally found in tea. And so how's that work? Yeah.
So L-theanine is actually an amino acid. So as Jiyoung said, it's commonly found in teas, and it's what gives that calming effect to teas versus coffee. Coffee can make you feel jittery, but the tea is very calming. So L-theanine actually goes into our brain and upregulates our feel-good neurotransmitters, so like serotonin and dopamine. So that gets rid of any anxiousness or feelings of stress and worry. And by shutting that down and allowing the brain to calm down, that really helps people get to sleep and stay asleep longer.
Wow, okay. So we have melatonin, L-theanine. How about Gaba? Gaba was one of the typical ingredients.
Gaba is definitely a very popular one. And interestingly, Gaba is, again, it's found in our brains. And it functions as a neurotransmitter in our brain, and it functions to inhibit neuronal activity. So it basically calms down physical and mental activity to facilitate calmness and relaxation. So even like muscle tension and like stress, mental stress and physical stress, both can be calmed down through GABA. And it's interesting that studies have shown individuals with insomnia or anxiety and depression and even ADHD, they all have low levels of GABA.
Wow.
So if we can increase GABA, we're going to help people sleep and also feel less anxious and stressed.
GABA is very important when it comes to sleep. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting questions about magnesium. I know magnesium is definitely an important mineral for relaxation.
Magnesium is one of the most important minerals in our body. It's part of so many processes, but when it comes to sleep, it can be so helpful for also facilitating that relaxation and getting rid of like restless legs and that general feeling of restlessness.
Yeah.
So, what type of magnesium? So this is also very individual, based on additional needs you may have. Oftentimes, magnesium bisglycinate is often the one that we go to when we're trying to help with muscle relaxation and restless legs. So that's the one that I usually go for recommending
and I
for
think
sleep.
that has the most absorption.
It is. It does have
highly
the
enhanced absorption.
yes.
Okay. And I think there's a few other herbal. I think valerian, top of my head, passionflower, lavender. I think all those are actually designed to help increase your GABA levels. Right?
Yes, they all function to increase GABA, and as a result, they help with calming the mind and the body to give you the best sleep.
Okay, perfect. So I think this is just a good segue here, actually, because I want to take this time to really summarize some of the ingredients that we talked about in the discussion today. So melatonin, very important for sleep, L-theanine, GABA. So that's actually some of the things you typically find in our gummy vitamins, the restful sleep. This is once again sugar-free, sugar alcohol-free, plant-based. And you know what? We've been hearing great feedbacks about this. And one of the testimonial, if I could actually read it really quickly, is actually from someone whose husband is a sleep specialist from studied at Stanford actually, and it works at Humber River Hospital here. And then she writes, I just wanted to send a quick note with respect to your amazing melatonin product, our sleep gummies. Both my 17-year-old daughter and myself have significant sleep issues. This in spite of the fact that my husband being a sleep medicine specialist. We have taken many different melatonin products over the years with limited success. We recently started taking your gummies, and for the first time in what seems like forever, we slept the whole night through. This is our third day taking them with nothing short of miraculous results. So this is something actually designed with what we talked about in mind. We have melatonin helping for the sleep, but also the L-theanine and GABA. It's right here. So sleep, L-theanine and GABA that actually decreases your stress levels. So essentially, so it's more effective. So when you're waking in the middle of the night, it's because your body is staying and being alerted. So when you reduce that stress level, melatonin is more effective, so you're getting a better sleep. And one other product I would like to show you here is actually our new product called Super Mushrooms here. These are actually really important for stress management just because of the adaptogens in here. We have lion's mane, reishi, turkey tail, and also chaga. Oh, here you go, sorry. And one thing I really want to highlight with this product is just addressing that afternoon coffee crave. It's because this flavor is actually coffee flavor. So many of our team in our office actually take these gummies as an alternative in the afternoon.
Gives you that kick.
Gives that kick. And also just because when they're craving that coffee taste, they don't need to actually grab a cup of coffee, but they just take this and their appetite satisfies. They don't
supportive to your
so it doesn't ruin their sleep hygiene.
Exactly, for sure. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions that we've missed.
I think the type of magnesium, I think you suggested was magnesium bisglycinate. Which is actually one of our product. Our magnesium gummies are actually based on magnesium bisglycinate as well. Okay.
Magnesium before bed. Magnesium's great before bed. And stopping coffee after 2 p.m. that's great, but I think some individuals may even need to stop sooner than that. So maybe even no coffee after noon. It just really depends on how the individual. Some people clear it faster than others.
I think that's most of the questions we have so far here. And I definitely forgot to say this beforehand. I actually want to give away 2 of these bottles today from this from our talk today. So I guess the winner will be chosen by Melissa. If you could share us one of the tips that you have learned today regarding sleep hygiene, and if you could share them in the comment, and Melissa will definitely choose a winner, and then we'll send you one of these bottles to you.
So you can have the best sleep.
Okay. And I think for
Any more questions?
I think we have covered the sleep hygiene today, some of the different guidelines the Health Canada provided for us, and also different natural ingredients that help improve sleep
Yeah.
as well. So I think it's a big discussion. We definitely try to shorten and provide a summarized version.
Yes.
Routine is the key.
It is key.
And it seems like routine sleep is actually the first step
to having a good routine.
To good routine
during the day. Yes.
And also overall.
Oh, fuzzy socks! I love fuzzy socks.
I think one thing I forgot is my eye mask. I love wearing my eye mask to sleep all the time.
Yeah, anything to block out any light. So, definitely, making sure there's no light, having an eye mask can be really helpful.
I think here is that is it too early to take magnesium at dinner?
Honestly, with magnesium, you can take it whenever, at any point in the day, really whenever you feel you need it. And honestly, I would, if you feel like you benefit from it, and during the afternoon, if you feel a little bit restless, that's great. But if you feel that by the time you go to bed, you still feel you need more. Typically, magnesium's pretty safe, and having an additional dose is okay.
Okay, great. And I want to really highlight one more time here. I think the melatonin for people who work at nights, or also night shift workers, graveyard workers, shift workers, essentially, you're not going to get melatonin because of the daylight coming in.
No,
so
yeah,
you
so
have
you
to,
do.
You need to supplement somehow.
Yeah.
And perfect way is actually because of our gummy vitamins, what I typically find, just because different blend in there with, once again, L-theanine and Gaba, to make sure your alertness is low, so the melatonin kicks in more effectively.
Yeah, and another thing that's interesting about melatonin is that it's not only great for our sleep, but it's also an amazing antioxidant. So that's another added bonus.
And magnesium, do you take it before bed or earlier? I think it depends. I think before bed is also good if you want to.
If it's I think honestly, creating a sleep bedtime routine is also good. So I like to put the supplements I take at bed right before bed. So I think it's you really have to figure out what works best for you. But either way, before bed or a little bit earlier, that's totally fine.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're not missing any other questions.
The other thing is, though, if anyone's like watching this in their bed with their tablet or their phone, we want you to stop doing that, because the bedroom should really only be for like sleep and like intimacy. Like if we have all these electronics in our rooms, it's hard for your body to associate your bed with just sleep. So that's another kind of behavioral thing that we really need to train our brains to associate our bed with just sleep.
And I think we're getting some questions about melatonin, the doses. So that's actually something we wanted to cover here.
I've taken melatonin before and I get headaches. So this is very common, especially if you've had too high of a dose. So again, dosing for melatonin is very individualized, but primarily we actually have seen that people tend to dose too high. You don't really need that high of a dose. So generally 3 milligrams is kind of the sweet spot. But we see people dosing like 10 milligrams, and that's when you generally start to see headaches and also nightmares. So I tell patients, if that has been their experience with melatonin, that they probably need a lower dose. So starting at even 1.5 milligrams and working your way up to 3 milligrams, you really don't need a very high dose for it to work.
Yeah, it's essentially the way that we designed our gummy vitamins. So once again, because we felt that people were taking high dose melatonin, but not to actually realize that actually stress that's preventing them to falling asleep in the first place. So when we made our sleep gummies, we actually have a low dose melatonin.
Yeah.
With a different blend of L-theanine and Gaba once again. So that low dose is more effective, so you don't feel that grogginess when you wake up in the morning, or headaches.
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely a dose situation. So
the dreams.
We get a couple people having headaches and night dreams and nightmares, so that's definitely lower the dose. Is it harmful over time to take melatonin every night to sleep? So again, it's based on the individual. Some people, and also as we age, we naturally produce less melatonin as we age, which is something a lot of people don't realize. So especially for women as they enter like a perimenopausal or menopausal stage, our melatonin levels go like they plummet. So that kind of explains why
Yeah.
women in the perimenopausal transition suffer with such horrible sleep. So really, supplementing with melatonin at a low dose can really help bring back that circadian rhythm to your body to facilitate a proper sleep-wake cycle. Um, but and again, melatonin has a lot of extra benefits. It's an antioxidant. So
Anti-aging.
and it's
as well.
anti-aging. One thing I will say though is always talk to your healthcare provider before starting any supplement, even if it's just melatonin, because we want to make sure that there's no interactions with if you're on other drugs. It's always best to check with your healthcare provider and make sure there's no interactions.
Okay. And I think we're done for today. If any other questions you may have, you can reach out to Nature's Fair, and then we'll definitely find a way to connect and answer some of the questions we may have missed as well. So once again, thank you so much for your time today,
Thank you.
and hopefully from our result conversation today, you definitely are first step ahead of getting good sleep.
Yeah, we hope you have an amazing sleep tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.